Okay, we've had the Nintendo Switch now for a couple of weeks and have gotten a pretty good feel for all of its features and for what it's trying to accomplish as a console. So we thought we'd put together our thoughts and let you know whether or not the Switch is worth buying at this point in time. The idea of the Nintendo Switch is really interesting to me. It's something that I would describe as like the red mage of gaming consoles. It's trying to be both a home console and a handheld portable gaming console. And while there are many things about it that really impress me, there are definitely a lot of issues that come with this console as well. A lot of people are calling this a soft launch of the console, and I think that's a pretty accurate way to describe it. There are a lot of features that you would expect from a modern-day home console that are missing from this. Let's start with the overall build quality of the system. I think that it's a very well-constructed piece of hardware. Everything feels solid, especially like when you attach the Joy-Con on either side and you feel the very satisfying click. The metallic, just solid feel to it, and the matte finish all make this look and feel like a very sleek, well-built piece of tech. It's something that you can set alongside any other tablet from Apple or Samsung, and it looks like it fits. It doesn't look like the Wii U, where it had kind of a cheap look to it, like a toy, a piece of plastic. It definitely has that sort of modern tech look and feel to it. It's very sleek. The one issue with the build quality of the system is the kickstand, which feels a little flimsy and it flexes a lot before kind of snapping into place. It is completely functional though, it isn't a problem. You just pull the kickstand out, set it down, and it functions the way it's supposed to function. It could have been a little bit more sturdily constructed, but I really don't see the system falling over being a problem unless you are, I don't know, banging on the table or doing something that you shouldn't be doing when trying to play a game. That CNET video was freaking stupid. Like, it's really hard to knock this thing down, to be honest. Like, the freaking light up there is shaking more than the Switch did. It could have been better, but it's really not that big of a deal. The form factor and the comfortability are something that I think is going to be a problem for a lot of people when they first start using the system, and it was for me too. Because this is attempting to be a handheld, portable console, they've really condensed the space for the buttons and for the sticks, and so for people who have larger hands, it's gonna feel a little bit awkward at first when you pick this thing up and start playing it. That's been true at least of most people that I've known who have played it. They've immediately started inquiring about the Pro Controller option. For me, it was very uncomfortable for the first, I would say, 2 or 3 sessions of play. But now that I've had it for a couple weeks, I am completely comfortable with the system. Whether that's playing it in portable mode with the Joy-Cons attached, whether that's putting it into the grip, or even holding them separately in either hand, that's actually my preferred method of playing now. At first, I thought that was the most uncomfortable way of playing, and now it's my preferred way of playing. So while it is very uncomfortable to use at first, I think that it's very easy to acclimate to the form factor of this console and get into a place where you're feeling comfortable and you're not thinking about it anymore. The screen on the tablet is really, really nice. It's very clear and crisp, and the color accuracy is actually pretty good on it. It has 720p resolution, and overall for its size, it just looks really, really great. I've heard a lot of people, especially a lot of reviews, saying that it has a screen brightness that is high enough that allows you to play in direct sunlight without problem. And I personally don't really agree with that. I feel like the screen has a lot of reflectivity, and anytime that I'm out in direct sunlight, I find it kind of hard to see. Even when riding in a car, I felt like I was constantly adjusting the position in order to keep it in the shade and in order to change the viewing angle to be able to see what I was looking at, because I found that it was actually really difficult to see in direct sunlight. However, the screen brightness is higher than on the 3DS. So if you take your 3DS out with you wherever you go and you're able to see that without a problem, or you can adjust to that, this is probably a little bit better than that. I mean, I can see it, it's okay, but it's not ideal. But as soon as it gets dark, like if I go inside of this house, I mean, immediately just totally impossible to see. I cannot see the walls, I cannot see anything, really. I'm guessing where the door is. Is it here? I have no idea where the door is. I can't go outside of the door. I can't see it. I don't know where I am right now. It's so dark. Anyways, out in broad daylight in Hyrule you can see, but anywhere else, any caves or anything like that, you cannot see. So the key feature of the system is the Joy-Con controllers that can attach when you take the system with you in portable mode, or can detach to be held in either hand. And I have to say that this is what I always wanted the Wii Remote and the Nunchuck to be. I have always wanted something with motion control capability that had all of the same functionality of a traditional controller, with sticks on either side, 2 shoulder buttons on either side, and the same number of buttons and all of that. I think the possibilities for the Joy-Con are really, really interesting, because you can give the choice to the player whether they want to use a traditional control scheme or whether they want to take advantage of some form of motion controls. It's that element of choice, the potential for allowing anyone to play a game in the way that they like, that's very exciting to me. Because there are some games that have used motion controls in a way that I felt were superior to a traditionally controlled method. But there will be others who don't want motion controls at all. And so I really, really like the possibilities, just like the options that the Joy-Con give to the player in that sense. A lot of people are reporting issues with connectivity, and I can confirm that this is a problem with the Switch right now. The left Joy-Con in particular, I have had issues with it connecting at all. Not just like syncing, where people are saying like, ooh, I'm moving this way, but it's out of sync. The character is not responding to the input that I'm giving it with the left control stick. It's not just that for me. There has been a time where I could not get the left Joy-Con controller to connect at all. The right Joy-Con was connected and the left was not. And this was both while they were slid off of the system and when I had them connected. I had them connected to the system and the left Joy-Con was not being read. Also, I play fairly close to the system, maybe within like 2 or 3 feet, generally speaking. But from what I'm able to tell, if you're up to 8 feet or beyond away, then these syncing issues are something you're probably going to experience. And these connectivity issues are actually carrying over into the gyro controls as well. I really like gyro controls. Ever since I played the remakes of Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask on the 3DS, where you can aim the bow with the gyro controls, that has been my preferred method for aiming and shooting in games. And when it works here on the Switch, it's also excellent. I love using gyro controls to aim the bow in Breath of the Wild. However, we have been experiencing some issues with connectivity with the gyro controls, and that's going to be a big problem, especially for Splatoon 2, if they don't get it worked out soon. When it works, it's awesome, I love it, but it kind of jumps around a little bit, even when you're close to the system sometimes, where it's just losing connectivity, and it can be a really big problem. One of the features I was most excited to try for myself is HD Rumble. The promise of what they talked about in the reveal of the Switch, with being able to shake the controller and being able to tell how many ice cubes are in the glass and that kind of thing, that was just eye-opening for me. The possibilities there I thought were really, really cool, and I couldn't wait to try it out for myself. Unfortunately, 1-2 Switch does not do the best job of actually showing the potential of HD Rumble. There's really one game in it where you kind of roll the balls back and forth, and that was a really crazy sensation, feeling the sensation of these balls rolling back and forth in your hand and then feeling the impact on one side or the other was really amazing. I have to admit that was one of the craziest things I've experienced in terms of like gaming in a long, long time. However, all the other games are just like pretty generic Rumble. I mean, it's finer, but it's nothing crazy. It's nothing really all that impressive. I don't understand how they didn't have an application that demonstrates exactly what they were talking about in the reveal of the Switch. I just want to feel the ice in the glass, just like they were talking about. And as of right now, there are no applications that actually demonstrate that. And I find that really odd. I don't know why they didn't just package 1-2 Switch with the system to begin with. But even if you aren't going to do that, just have some kind of little app that features HD Rumble and shows you the capabilities of it. I think that the system really needs that, the same way that the Wii needed Wii Sports. But there's just nothing like that here, and I find that a really big missed opportunity. One really quick thing I want to mention is the way that the system uses sleep mode. On the positive side, it's really cool that I put the system down, I go to sleep, I go to work for a while, and I come back, I turn the system on, and I'm playing Zelda again, within a matter of seconds. It's really impressive. I love how quickly you can just pick the system up and get back into playing the game again. That is a very impressive feature, and I really, really like that. However, there's no option just from the software to shut the system down. The only way to shut the system down is to hold the power button down before it'll bring up a little menu and you can go and actually turn the system off. And on one of the switches we have experienced issues with getting the system to wake up from sleep mode. I don't know how common that is. It hasn't happened to me on my Switch or to Landon on his Switch, but it has happened on the Switch that Nintendo sent us early multiple times, where you go to press the power button, doesn't come on, you press the home button, doesn't come on, doesn't respond at all. You have to hold that button down for a long time to get it to force shut down, then turn it on again. So I wish that they would add at least an option easily from the software to just power it down fully if you want to do that. For those of you who are into Amiibo, this has Amiibo support, and you can just place the little Amiibo right onto one of the sticks, and it reads it without an issue. We've done this a couple times with some of my cousin's Amiibo for Breath of the Wild. A totally seamless experience, so for those of you who are into Amiibo, it works really well here. Also, people are reportedly having problems with the dock actually scratching the screen of the tablet, which is inexcusable. There isn't any reason why they couldn't have provided some padding on the inside of the dock in order to avoid this. It wouldn't have cost anything for them to do that. And so that worries me a lot. If you're going to pick this system up, I think it's a very good idea to get a screen protector with it as well. At the moment, because I am afraid of scratching the screen, I'm not really taking the system out of the dock whenever I can avoid doing that, because there's nothing that would bother me more than to scratch the screen of the Switch this early on. So until I can get a really nice screen protector, I'm just going to leave it docked, but that is something that you should be aware of. Moving on to the power of the console. We've known for a while now that the Switch is using a custom NVIDIA Tegra X1 chip, and that is absolutely amazing for a portable console. It is far and away the most powerful handheld portable console that there is. However, as a home console, it is definitely lacking in comparison to the PlayStation 4 or Xbox One. It is a little bit more powerful than the Wii U. It actually doubles the RAM that the Wii U had, but it's only half of what the PlayStation 4 has. The GPU and CPU clock speeds are comparable to the Wii U as well. So that's why you get a lot of people putting out videos right now comparing the loading times in Breath of the Wild between the Switch and the Wii U, and in a lot of cases, they're pretty similar. Breath of the Wild is probably our best frame of reference at the moment for how good a game can look on the Switch, but I don't think it's the best indicator because it was developed for two different consoles at the same time. It was developed for the Wii U and for the Switch. But it is still the best looking game on the system that we can examine at this moment. And while it's in TV mode, you can definitely see some issues graphically with it. I think that Breath of the Wild's art style hides them very well, and without a trained eye, you might not be able to see some of this stuff if you're just, trying to play and enjoy the game. But texture filtering is definitely something that is kind of an issue, at least with Breath of the Wild. It's only a few meters, I would say, in front of Link as you're running around that you can see a defined line going across the screen where the texture filtering is sort of like popping in. The low resolution of some of the textures is also something that I noticed big time when in TV mode. But when it's in portable mode, these are things that I think are much, much harder to pick up on. And because of this, I reached the conclusion that it really performs better as a handheld console. As a handheld console, it is absolutely impressive. It is crazy how cool it is that you can take games that look like this, that perform like this, with you on the go. But as a home console, when you're comparing it to its direct competitors like the PlayStation 4, it's just not in the same league. But again, I think the appeal is that you can take a home console level experience out with you. And I think that that is by far the most impressive feat of the Switch. I want to talk about the battery life here for a minute because a lot of people are really harping on the Switch for its low battery life, but I have a hard time understanding that perspective because I'm not sure where their reference for comparison is coming from. If it's coming from smartphones, First of all, smartphones when they come out are like $600 or $700. They don't run nearly as intensive applications as the Switch is able to run. And when you do play games on phones, it drains their battery life like crazy. If we were to compare the Switch's battery life with other dedicated portable handheld gaming consoles like the PlayStation Vita or even the 3DS, it's about the same. You'll get about 3 hours of battery life playing something like Breath of the Wild, a more intensive 3D game, as long as your screen brightness isn't turned all the way up or something like that. And for a game that's a little bit less intensive, say I Am Setsuna or something like that, you'll get about 5 hours of battery life. And that is absolutely comparable with the PlayStation Vita's battery life, and the 3DS is a little bit longer than that, but not that much. So the issue here is not with the Switch, it's just with battery technology, in my opinion. Battery technology has not really advanced much in the last 2 decades. And so that's what the real issue is. We don't have a power solution for running these kinds of intensive applications for extended periods of time. But knocking this as a problem for the Switch itself, I think, is misguided. I think it's easily comparable to what other dedicated handheld gaming consoles have been doing for a long time. One thing I do wonder about when talking about the power of the Switch is how soon it's going to be just completely eclipsed by Sony and Microsoft's upcoming consoles. Is this something that in a couple of years from now, for instance, that the Switch will be so far behind that there will be absolutely no chance whatsoever that third-party big AAA game developers will be able to send a port over to the Switch? From what I'm hearing from developers, it seems that it's very easy to develop for the Switch. And I think NVIDIA's Tegra chip is a big part of that it allows for scalable development where you can port something very easily over and it doesn't take a lot of time or resources to scale the graphics down to work on the Switch. Let's assume that that's true at the moment. Will that be true when the Xbox Scorpio comes out or when PlayStation decides to reveal their next console? Is that only a couple years away? Is that 4 or 5 years away? What realistic chance is there for the Switch to be getting any major, very large AAA third-party developed game that will be coming out on Sony and Microsoft consoles ported over to the Switch? That's something that is very unlikely, I feel. We have to wait and see what's going to happen, but it certainly doesn't bode well, and I think, again, we'll have another Nintendo console, the third console in a row, where you are not able to play some of the biggest, most anticipated third-party AAA titles that come out. Storage is going to be a big problem if you want to buy digital games. The $300 price tag of the Switch seems fairly reasonable at first until you start throwing in the added cost of an ideal controller, if you want to get the Pro controller with this, and then any kind of modern standard for storage space. The Switch only comes with 32 gigabytes of internal storage. I think like 7 gigabytes of that is being used for the operating system, so you only have effectively 25 gigabytes of storage that come installed on the system. And I find that to be kind of unacceptable, especially in an age where buying games digitally is becoming more and more common. A game coming out pretty soon for the Switch, Dragon Quest Heroes 1 and 2, will not fit on the default storage space of the Nintendo Switch. You would have to buy additional storage to even download and play that game digitally. So once you throw in the added cost of the additional storage you need and an ideal controller for a lot of people, all of a sudden it's no longer a $300 console. You could easily spend up to $500 trying to get this console at a place where you're happy with it. And that's a really steep price, to be honest. You know, it's actually pretty similar, not quite as bad, but pretty similar to the storage issue with the PlayStation Vita, where Sony's cards cost just absolutely ridiculous amounts of money. I don't think the Switch is going to be that bad because you can buy, just micro SD cards. Any micro SD card will work. You don't have to get like Nintendo's own brand card. But even still, I mean, that stuff can get expensive when you want to get storage over 100 gigabytes. It gets pretty expensive pretty fast. So that, I think, is a big problem with the Switch and something that you definitely need to consider if you're looking to buy it and if you're looking to play games digitally at all. The user interface is pretty derivative here in terms of utility. Like, it works the same way that most tablet user interfaces work. but it's very clean and functional visually, and what really sets it apart is the sound design. The really snappy sound design is just very charming. I really, really like all of the clicks and snaps and all the different sounds of the UI. It's missing music. I don't know why they don't have music. That's been one of my favorite parts of the menu screens of the last two Nintendo consoles, has been the music in those menus. And the lack of it here, I don't know. I just really wish they had some cool, snappy music to go alongside a lot of that sound design. Now we come to probably the most important one, which is the game library. And at launch, Breath of the Wild to me is the only attractive option. There are other games. I Am Setsuna is probably one that a lot of people on this channel might be interested in giving a try, if you don't have it already on Steam or PlayStation 4 or something like that. But there's just really nothing else that I care to play at the launch of the Switch. I mean, Snipper Clips is there, 1-2 Switch, but 1-2 Switch is getting panned big time. It's not getting very good reviews. I have the RMX racing game. That's pretty fun. It doesn't replace an F-Zero for me, but I mean, it is a pretty fun game to play. You know, you have Shovel Knight, if you haven't already played that. It's just that the game library is not only small, but filled with lots of games that have already been out for a while, or maybe just won't be that interesting to people who are looking for more immersive experiences with strong storytelling and that kind of thing. So right now at launch, I don't think that it has a very impressive library at all. However, by the end of the year, Splatoon 2 will be out, Mario Odyssey will be out, and Xenoblade 2 will be out. And at that point, it starts to look more attractive to me. Towards the end of the holiday season, you know, Christmas time at the end of 2017, if you can pick one up with Breath of the Wild and Xenoblade and Mario Odyssey and Splatoon 2 if you're into that, all of a sudden you've got a lot of really great games to play that will definitely keep you entertained for a really long time. There are also apparently upwards to 80 games in development for the Switch right now, so it's definitely not bleak by any means. It's just something that at the launch doesn't look all that great, but could end up being really awesome, not only by the end of 2017, but even coming into the first and second quarter of 2018. Okay, now for some missing features. There is no video streaming service, no Netflix, no Hulu, nothing. There's also no internet browsing, and there's no virtual console at the launch of the Switch, and all of these things to me are baffling. Baffling. I have no idea why these things are not available at the launch. With the game library being as sparse as it is, the virtual console would have been perfect to give people some stuff to do with their new system. I have no idea why it is so hard for Nintendo to get their virtual console right. It is honestly just crazy to me, the gold mine they are sitting on with the concept of virtual console, that they just do not take advantage of at all. It makes no sense to me why they couldn't have a library of hundreds of games for multiple of their older consoles available right away with the launch of the Switch. That alone would make it more justifiable to shell the $300 to buy the system if you had access to this wealth of amazing GameCube, N64, Super Nintendo, and NES games right out of the box. However, not only are they not taking advantage of this enormous library of amazing games that they've had in the past, they don't have any of them, not even one, not even a service ready for this. And that is absolutely nuts to me. It makes no sense, and to me is one of the biggest oversights of this company for a long time running now. With the lack of like Netflix and Hulu, I'm also baffled by that because they had those services on the Wii U and on the Wii. So I have no idea why they didn't have this ready at launch. Again, this is what leads it to feeling a bit like a soft launch. We just have no idea why a lot of these services that were available before on previous Nintendo consoles and which are available on all of their competitors' consoles are not available here. There's also no voice chat whatsoever right now. That'll be coming in the fall, and you'll have to do it through an app that you download on your phone. You will not be able to do it through the console. And they're still using friend codes. I mean, they know. They've heard the criticism that people don't like friend codes. And I believe it was Reggie that had reported a little while back that the Nintendo Switch was not going to be using friend codes, and it's using friend codes again. But these are a lot of features that modern gamers are going to see as standard, are going to see as what you would just expect from a modern console, and you're not going to get them at all, at least right now at the launch of the Switch. Because of this, the Switch is not at all an all-in-one entertainment machine like its competitors are. It is strictly right now a machine for playing games, and at least for the foreseeable future, playing first-party Nintendo games. If first-party Nintendo games are not your thing, then you have basically no reason to buy this console. Again, at least at launch, at least right now. Maybe a year from now, there will be some really cool third-party games on the system, and the idea of taking that with you on the go or playing at home would be very appealing. But right now, that's just not the case. So to wrap up, I really think that whether you're a Nintendo fan or not, that at this particular moment, it's not really worth buying the Switch. If you're a Nintendo fan, you probably already have a Wii U and you can play Breath of the Wild on that. And then if you're excited about Mario Odyssey and Splatoon 2 and Xenoblade 2 and all that stuff, you can get the system at the end of the year when a lot of these problems have been patched or new features have been added or whatever that will make the system more appealing at that time. However, simply as a personal recommendation right now at the launch of the Switch, I think that it has a lot of potential. I think that the ideas are very cool, but without really great third-party support, without the ability to play the biggest AAA titles that will be coming out over the next, few years, this is really just a machine to play Nintendo games. And if you're not into Nintendo games, then there is nothing here to pull you in to buy the system. So at the very least, I would personally recommend waiting until the holidays to buy this. Or if you're really into Splatoon or something, at least wait till the summer. But until then, I can't recommend buying the Switch right now. Despite the fact that I love the ideas and it has been really cool. Like, it was really cool that we had to go up to a meeting in Salt Lake, which is about an hour away, and I picked up the console out of the dock and I played for that 2-hour commute there and back and made a lot of progress in the game, whereas otherwise I would have had to wait all day to get home to pick it up again. Like, the potential of that, just that right there, is such a cool idea, and I had a very positive experience, using the console in that way. But there are too many other problems here, too many other missing features. The no virtual console thing is really a big problem for me. Some technical issues with connectivity, the dock scratching screens. These things will be fixed, here in the next few months to a year. These aren't going to be problems in the long term. And so for that reason, I say just wait a little bit and see what Nintendo does and see what the third parties can do for the system before making your choice. All right, that's it for my review of the Nintendo Switch. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and we'll see you again really soon.